Another Buffalo Bills win. We've said this 6 straight weeks now. The Bills took 5 in a row to finish out the regular season, and now, when it matters most, Buffalo wins their first game in the playoffs, moving on to the divisional round for the 4th straight year. Again, Matt Mlodzinski, I've got Jackson Roberts driving back now from Highmark Stadium. What was it like watching this game?
It was wild, man. I don't think I've ever seen snow like volcanoes as the touchdowns are being scored. It was wild. I mean, we saw the snow on the seats that a lot of the pretty much all the fans were sitting on. Those were being tossed up, kind of like LeBron James and Michael Jordan with the powder. And I mean, it was like 30,000 people, 30,000 toss-ups collectively. It was kind of like being in a winter wonderland in a way. But in a way, that's kind of metaphoric because it was a freeze fest of a game. But you know, this is the kind of football that is just exactly what you come to see, and it's what you get in Western New York in mid-January, and it delivered again. Another great game.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 plays, and we'll go in depth on this later tonight at News 10 NBC at 11. But 2 plays offensively that stood out: the Josh Allen rushing touchdown, the second longest rushing touchdown by a quarterback in playoff history, and the Khalil Shakir kind of willing his way. I mean, he did not want to go down on that play. If there was anything that was going to happen, it was going to be a touchdown or a touchdown. That was it. And those 2 plays were fun to watch, man.
Oh, they were, dude. They were so fun to watch. And I'll tell you something else, my man. This was so cool to see. Or more so here afterwards. I'm at Khalil's lockers. There's a scrum of us and maybe about 15 other people. All of us in the Bills media circle, probably some national media there too. And Khalil's kind of joking, and I allude to this on the air, or in our coverage coming up, is that he kind of referred to himself as a bust, and maybe doing so in a lighthearted way, but hinting at some of the criticism that he had heard, that noise coming from outside of one Bills drive. He heard it, man, and I think this is a big confidence boost, and I think it's a big one at a critical time because we don't know what will become of Christian Benford. I know he didn't leave the game permanently, but you never know. It never hurts to have some depth at this time of the year, and I mean, look, if ever evident, aside from linebacker, where the Bills are playing 2 backups right now, you're going to need Elam to step up at cornerback at least. Who knows what'll happen with Taron Johnson? That's the other thing too. He had been evaluated for a head injury.
Yeah, a lot of Bills injuries. I feel like we should stick with that, and with that as well. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter breakdown. We don't have sound for today's episode from the players, but you hear Jackson right there again referencing some of the stuff that went down today. But we want to make sure that you guys get your comments in. So you should be able to see it whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. You can put your comments down there, and we'll show them here, and we'll chat with you. But as far as the injuries go, Terrell Bernard especially, I mean, there's a chance he does not play against the Chiefs. It's not as bad as I think people initially thought, but it's sounding like an ankle sprain. They're going to have an MRI tomorrow. How big of a loss is that? Because you know as well as anyone that Big Play Bernard is someone the Bills need.
Oh, he is. He's been huge this year. I mean, he was AFC Defensive Player of the Week. He's come away with some interceptions, some sacks. You go back to the Commander game. That was that was probably one of, if not his best games of the year. He's huge, man. You're going to need him. You're going to need him against a Patrick Mahomes-led offense. And look, Bills are going to tell you it's next man up, and it's true. We've seen it time and time again. But it's huge, and it was a tough injury to watch. I'm seeing him get on the cart, clearly in pain. Face, hand to the face. It didn't look great.
Yeah, that's one thing you hate seeing when the player puts their towel over their head, and you just kind of know that it's not he. You know that he's not coming back in the game at that point, and you know that it could be serious. Um, but injuries again, we'll find out more as the week goes on. We should know more tomorrow. We'll definitely know more by Wednesday when the Bills are likely going to do their midseason big media day availability there, and I'll be at that. But as far as this game though, because I do want to concentrate on this. Obviously, there's a lot to get to, but in the second half, the Steelers made a run there. I mean, was there a sense you think in Highmark Stadium, like a feeling of, like, are we really going to blow this game?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Steelers go on that drive. I think the critical one for Buffalo was after Pittsburgh made it a one-score game. Um, you know, Bills needed to do something. I'm pretty sure they got a field goal on that drive. And then, eventually they were able to find the end zone again and milk some time off of the clock, get some critical first downs, move the sticks. And from there, that was all she wrote. So, I mean, in a way, it felt like Pittsburgh wasn't out of the game. But, I mean, it's the playoffs, man. I mean, do style points really matter? I don't think they do. You win in advance. That's what it's about at this time of the year.
Just win, baby. Just win. That's all you got to do when it's playoff time. And the Bills, of course, did that. Why don't we look a little bit ahead, right? Because this game is done with. We definitely want to focus a little bit on Kansas City because this is a playoff game that has happened a few times now, and Buffalo's come up short both games. But now the Bills get what they wanted. They get Kansas City at home in Highmark Stadium. It's going to be another cold game, and obviously Highmark Stadium is going to be rocking for that one. So. With this Steelers win now kind of in the rear view, I mean, how exciting is it that they finally get what they want playing Kansas City at home?
I don't think they're going to tell you that they want it as much, but my sense, and I'm no mind reader, my sense is behind the curtain, behind closed doors, they want this. I mean, they've gone on to face Kansas City in the playoffs. 2020, 2021, devastating losses in both of those years. And of course, the 13-second one needs no other words. So I think to have them here at Highmark Stadium in front of Bills Mafia, that can't be understated and it can't be underappreciated. What's funny about it is Ed Oliver, one of the other guys I talked to afterwards, he was interested to learn that it was Patrick Mahomes' first playoff game on the road, away from Arrowhead Stadium, not including the Super Bowl, of course. And Oliver, he was kind of taken aback by it. He was so surprised. He was like, "Oh, well, maybe a change of scenery will be good for him. Maybe it's the kind of thing that'll bring out something more." Definitely, if you're a defense and you're looking at it that way, that's a healthy approach. Thinking how might this kind of thing change Mahomes' game up, if at all. Maybe throw in some more wrinkles to what that offense is capable of doing. But, in the end, advantage Bills here because they have the crowd, they have that 12th man, and it's going to force Mahomes and company to really be on their toes and communicating every second of the game, just like the Bills have. I mean, I remember that's exactly what it was like when I was at Arrowhead a few years ago. You couldn't hear yourself think. And, maybe Mahomes and the Chiefs, they get a taste of that next weekend.
Yeah, I think that part, that's really interesting to hear. And honestly, like the way I look at it is like Josh Allen to me is the most talented quarterback in the NFL. Like no one can do what he does. But Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback. He's got the Super Bowls. He's literally the reigning Super Bowl champion. So he's probably going to look at this as a challenge. And yeah, a Bills defense is going to have to, make sure they're on their toes and make sure that they, are ready for what Mahomes brings because that he's going to be up for that. That's a really interesting side note there. But, circling back to this game, obviously, and again, you mentioned you were in the locker room, you heard from some of the guys. Like, was there anything you think that stood out from this game? Because I know we have no sound to share. Was there a quote or two? You just mentioned Oliver, but more against the Steelers that you wanted to bring up.
Well, I think what we saw is we saw a lot of guys come in. We saw a little bit of Balen Spector. We saw some of Dorian Williams. Um, I know it didn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things on the drive, but one tackle Williams made really impressed me on a second down. I mean, he's not there, and there's some open field, and the Steeler receiver can kind of turn up field and get a first down at least. Little things like that kind of stuck out. As far as the game goes, talking to Cam Lewis after the game too, he said, really a testament to what Bean and McDermott are able to do, bring in all these guys so that they can have the depth on this roster to be able to go toe-to-toe with some of these better teams in the league. And I got to tell you something. Obviously, once the game was moved, I think the advantage kind of shifted a little bit more towards Buffalo, because I thought with the snow, maybe taking the passing game out of things a little bit is going to allow the Steelers to do what they did best. They really were held at bay in the run game, that is. Buffalo did a good job, and we've seen that before, whether it was this game, you go back in the middle of the season against some other good running backs they've played. I think it's a little bit of a pattern that this defensive front really steps up when they need to.
It really is, and it's obviously commendable what this just Bills team overall, especially the defense, has done, because so many guys were out of this game initially. A ton of other guys left the game, and I know, I believe it was Spector that returned, but then ended up having to leave again, and there were so many injuries in this game for the Bills. You talk about the Steelers being without T.J. Watt, but the Bills had their own problems with a lot more guys this game, and they still found a way to make the plays when it mattered.
Something else worthwhile, too, totally along those lines. A.J. Klein, of course, getting elevated and getting the elevation and being on the active roster. Sean McDermott, and I'm not going to quote him exactly because I don't want to misquote him, but he had brought up a story in which he had said Klein was essentially getting ready to go on vacation earlier in the week, and he got the call from the Bills, saying, hey, this could be your chance. And here he is making some big plays tonight. So I don't know. I found that kind of cool too. Kind of just going from one end of where you are in life to the other, kind of a very much off the couch feel. But again, depth, we've talked about it. You've seen it in the locker room. You've seen it on the practice field. I've seen it in the locker room. I've seen it on the game field. It's kind of just a core element to whatever a team, is able to do in the playoffs, because usually it's a war of attrition. And for the Bills, up until today, it kind of seemed like it was the opposite. They were getting healthier, but they've lost some guys, and they haven't lost much of a beat.
And the biggest thing there is, this team, I know I've only been here about a little over 2 years. This is my third season, but this just feels like a Bills team that just they back each other up more than they ever have in the past years. I know that's always kind of been what Sean McDermott tries to do here, and this year it just seems even better than some of those past years as far as guys stepping up, playing for each other. And I know that, they told us that all week long, but they can say something. We've still got to see it on the field, and I think I do see that this year.
Oh, you're totally seeing it. How about all the guys coming together in practice, just dancing, just having fun, and doing that before the game, and Josh having a different handshake with every single receiver. It's just not something you see all the time. I know it might not be the most earth-shattering thing. Different guys do different things, in different locker rooms, as far as coming together and keeping that camaraderie intact. But you just see it. You get the sense that this team is really together as one. They have an identity. The Joe Brady offense seems to work. Is it perfect? No. Did they have their faults tonight? They did. But, they were able to do more than enough to win.
Yeah, I think the thing that goes maybe that people don't remember is that it was. I mean, it was really just 3 years ago when Josh Allen was the young guy. The Bills were signing these veteran guys to try to help them along in the playoffs. Now Allen and even Diggs, because it wasn't like they were making the playoffs in Minnesota every year. Like the Bills are a much different level than the Vikings were. They had good years, but this is a little bit of a different level. And he needed to win through that, play through that. Now they're the guys, like these stars are the guys. They're helping all the other guys along. Like the guys that weren't the veterans are now the veterans. And I think that says a lot because they're the veterans, but they're also the stars that are still in their prime. And I think that's really easy to look to. It kind of just it leads by itself, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. The veteran leadership has been key. We've seen it. Um, and even Josh, you know, now several years into his career, has taken off, and he really commands that locker room. And they'll go as far as he goes in the end.
Yeah, I wanted to pop that stat up right there as we're winding down again, taking your comments. I haven't seen any yet, but feel free to get any last ones in there. We're going to wrap up in the next 5 minutes or so. But Allen's numbers, super impressive. I mean, you might look at 203 yards and say that's not too many, but he only threw the ball 30 times, still averaging about 10 yards per pass completion and 3 touchdowns. And then, again, the 74 rushing yards as well. I mean, he continues. We started the season talking about Allen needs to run the ball more. Why aren't they running him? And now they are. And we're showing what they were missing because he is just taking over games with his arm, with his legs, however he really feels like it.
52-yard touchdown run, man. I mean, it's the classic Josh Allen run. That was kind of the all-for-one deal, the evading some tackles, breaking one, and then speeding by a few defenders.
100%, man. We're not getting any comments here, so that's all right. Obviously, don't feel shy though. Put some in, but figured, why don't we kind of get this wrapped up here? As we've got News 10 NBC at 11 coming up soon. You'll hear from both Jackson and I. Will break down the game more, but it looks like we got something. So why don't we show this from Brandy Golding? Love that profile pic.
Oh, that's amazing.
Josh has been let off the leash, and he is proving what we have all said. That's cool.
It's true, and it's a good point. I mean, say what you will about him when he was with Ken Dorsey, but Brady's kind of letting Allen spread his wings a little bit. And that's not to say he's being reckless, and that's not to say he's being happy-go-lucky, because you don't want that. You don't want a quarterback to play that way, because that's the opposite end of the spectrum. When you get that, typically you get a careless Josh Allen, you get a reckless Josh Allen. You want conservative but smart at the same time. And I think you got to find the balance. You do want some aggressiveness in there, but I think it has to come at the right time, and it has to come in portions, especially now, when he can't really afford to get hurt.
Although I will say that was a playoff run. There's times in the regular season when Josh will have a run. It might be him and two other defenders, and let's say it's like two cornerbacks, and he'll run out of bounds, and I'll think to myself, well, I've seen this plenty of times. Josh could have taken them on and fought for extra yards. Yeah. In the playoffs, he will do that. I think he will do that in the playoffs because he could have slid there. I mean, he really could have slid, and he went forward.
No, look, 100%, and I'm with you. I mean, the playoffs, it's win or go home. It's now or never. I also think you do have to pick your spots within the game. I mean, that was a situation that kind of catapulted the Bills a little bit, and not necessarily a do or die moment in the game. Buffalo was on the move, but I think if you're Josh, you just got to continue to just be careful, but at the same time, let him be him, but let him be the adult at the same time.
100%, man. You haven't said it. I mean, you can't say it much better than that. That's what you got to do. And I think he's doing it to perfection right now. It's fun to see. He's throwing the short dump off passes like the one to Shakir. He's letting them go to work. They're doing it. I think he's gaining trust in them. It's awesome to see. I don't want to jinx it, but the Bills are going to beat the Chiefs. I can say that. I'm not a Bills fan, So I don't think jinx applies to what I say, but it's happening. Mark it down. Get ready to go to Baltimore, Jackson. You ready for some Old Bay seasoning on your wings?
I was gonna say I'll take that. I'll take some crab cakes too. I mean, that works too. But you're a little more you're a little more bold than I am. I give you credit for it. I want to wait and see just how the injuries play out. See who's available, who's not, how close to the guys who were ruled out originally to coming back. What's the deal with not just Benford but Bernard, Taron Johnson too. I totally am with you in the sense that they could beat the Chiefs. Again, I'll say it. Advantage Bills at this point. Being home. You still got Josh Allen at the end of the day, and you got a lot of the core guys up front on this defensive line. You still have Stephon Diggs. You still have James Cook. Khalil Shakir continues to make plays. You get some other guys involved in the offense, and if you're Joe Brady, you can maybe get creative, maybe get extra creative in this game, because I think they'll need to. They could easily beat them. I could see it happening.
Yeah, you said it though. Injuries, they need to get healthy. I don't think they need to get everyone back, but if Bernard is available, that would be huge. If Douglas can get healthy, that would be big. We'll see with Benford. They definitely need to get some, especially this defensive back room. But what I will say is, it was cold in Kansas City, but a Buffalo cold is a little bit different. So
a little bit different. All that lake effect snow that piles up.
Maybe Mahomes will have a little bit too much barbecue. You never know. I don't know what they do over there in KC.
We'll see. The barbecue there, you can't sleep on it. That's pretty good.
I love it, man. Hey, again, you guys, thanks for listening here. As always, we'll take your comments every time we do this. And shout out to Brandy again for commenting there about Josh. And again, we'll see you on News 10 NBC at 11. So make sure to tune in, and we'll talk to you next time.